You found a baby bird on the ground. It's small. It's alone. It's making a sound that is impossible to ignore. A thin, urgent, repeating call that seems designed specifically to activate every protective instinct you have. And your first thought is, its parents are gone. Needs me. I have to do something. That thought, that compassionate, instinctive, entirely human thought, is the thought that kills more baby birds every year than cats and hawks and window strikes combined. Not because you don't care. Because you don't know what is actually happening between that bird on the ground and the parents you cannot see. What is actually happening is one of the most extraordinary communication systems in nature. A system that was built over millions of years specifically for this moment. The moment a young bird is separated from its parents on the ground, vulnerable. A system that works with a precision and reliability that most people never discover because they interrupt it within 60 seconds of finding the bird. Today we are going into that system. How parent birds recognize their own young from among all others. How they locate them across distances that should make finding them impossible. The specific calls that are happening right now in the yard where you found that bird, calls you cannot hear or cannot interpret, but that the parent bird is tracking as precisely as a homing signal. And the 3 things humans do in the first 5 minutes of finding a baby bird that shut that system down completely. Welcome back. Subscribe before this ends. What we cover today is the difference between a bird that gets reunited with its parents and a bird that dies in a cardboard box because someone loved it incorrectly. The recognition system begins before the egg hatches. This is the part that changes everything about how you understand the bond between a parent bird and its offspring. Before the chick has ever opened its eyes. Before it has felt air on its feathers. Before it has made its first sound into the world outside the shell. The mother is singing to it. Research published in the journal Science News documented something that ornithologists initially found difficult to believe. Superb fairy wren mothers begin vocalizing specific, individualized calls to their eggs during the incubation period, not general species calls, specific calls directed at the eggs, at a consistent time of day at close range, as if in direct communication with the chick inside. And the chick is listening. Heart rate monitoring of eggs exposed to recordings of the mother's call versus recordings of unfamiliar birds showed measurable physiological response. A slowing of the heart rate, a habituation pattern that indicated not just hearing, but learning. The chick inside the egg is memorizing its mother's voice before it hatches. But that's only half of what is happening. The mother is also teaching the chick a password. In superb fairy wrens, which are frequently targeted by cuckoos, birds that lay their eggs in other species' nests and rely on the host parents to raise their chicks, the mother's prenatal singing embeds a specific element in the chick's first calls after hatching. A vocal signature unique to this family that the chick must produce in its begging calls for the parents to feed it. Chicks that produce the correct signature are fed. Cuckoo chicks, which were not present in the nest during the prenatal singing and do not have the password, are starved. The system is a prenatal coding of individual identity, transmitted from mother to chick before birth, used as an authentication system after hatching. This is not unique to fairy wrens. Research from Cornell's Laboratory of Ornithology documented the same phenomenon in green-rumped parrotlets, where parents give each chick its own individual contact call, effectively a name, in the weeks after hatching. The chick learns this call, adopts it, uses it for its entire life as its primary identity signal. In zebra finches, published research in peer-reviewed ornithology journals demonstrated that begging calls, the hungry calls that young birds make when soliciting food, contain individually distinctive vocal signatures that emerge. The chick has an identity in the acoustic world before it ever leaves the nest. The parent has memorized that identity completely. And when the chick ends up on the ground, as fledglings do by design as a normal part of their development, the parent does not lose track of it. The parent is listening for it. Here is what fledging actually is, because this is the piece of information that changes every decision you make when you find a baby bird on the ground. Fledging is not an accident. It is not a failure. It is not the chick falling out of the nest prematurely or being pushed out by a sibling or losing its grip and tumbling. Fledging is a developmental stage that every songbird goes through, as deliberate and as necessary as the hatching that precedes. At a certain point in the chick's development, typically around day 12 to 14 for most North American songbird species, though the range extends from as few as 9 days to as many as 25 depending on the species. The chick's wing muscles have developed enough for limited flight but not sustained flight. Its tail feathers are short. Its flight feathers are not yet full length. Cannot do what an adult bird can do. But it is ready to leave the nest. And it does leave the nest. Deliberately, on its own initiative. It hops to the nest rim, looks out at the world, and jumps. It lands on the ground, or on a low branch, or in the leaf litter at the base of the tree. And there it will stay, for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks depending on the species, while its flight feathers finish growing and its parents continue to feed it. The parents are not absent. They are not searching for the lost chick in a panic. They are precisely located relative to the chick, typically within 30 to 60 feet, calling to it constantly, bringing food to it regularly, monitoring it for predators, and teaching it the early stages of foraging through observation and proximity. The fledgling on the ground is not abandoned. This is the most critical piece of information you can carry. A fully feathered baby bird on the ground is not lost. It has not been abandoned. It is in the middle of a normal developmental process, in continuous acoustic contact with parents you cannot see, eating several times per hour from parents who are watching from nearby cover and waiting for you to leave so they can approach. The parents are waiting for you to leave. This is where human intervention becomes the problem. There are 3 specific things that humans do when they find a fledgling that interrupt or prevent the parental reunion system from functioning. The first is approaching and staying. Parent birds do not approach the fledgling when a human is present nearby. This is not timidity. This is predator avoidance logic. A human standing near a fledgling is, from the parent bird's threat assessment, a predator near vulnerable prey. The parent will watch from cover, often from a distance of 60 to 100 feet, producing contact calls at intervals, waiting. If the human does not leave, the parent does not approach. The longer the human stays, the longer the fledgling goes without feeding. In hot weather, a fledgling can become dehydrated and hypoglycemic within a few hours without food. The solution is to leave. Specifically, to leave the visual range of the fledgling. Walk inside. Walk around a corner. Give the yard 15 to 20 minutes of complete human absence. Then observe from a window if you can. Within minutes in most cases, you will see or hear the parent arrive. The second thing humans do is pick the fledgling up and move it. The parent bird is tracking the fledgling by its contact calls, the specific, individualized calls that it has known since before the chick hatched. These calls are directional. The parent is using them to locate the chick's position in space. When a human picks up the fledgling and carries it 20 feet to a better spot or 30 feet to safer ground or 40 feet inside to protect it, the parent loses the directional signal for the new position. The parent will search for the chick in the location where the signal was last heard. It will call. It will wait. It will expand its search radius gradually. If the chick has been moved far enough, or placed inside a structure where its calls are muffled or inaudible from outside, the parent may never relocate it. There is an exception to not moving the fledgling, and it's a narrow one. If the fledgling is in immediate specific danger on a road with active traffic directly beneath a cat, in a position where a predator has already attempted an attack, you can move it. But move it to the nearest safe cover within the same general area. Not inside. Not to a new yard. Not to a location where it cannot be heard from the original location. 5 to 10 feet into nearby shrubs, with the parent's calls as your guide for whether you've moved it too far. If the contact calls stop in response to your movement, you have gone too far. The third thing, and this is the one that permanently breaks the reunion, is bringing the fledgling inside. A fledgling taken inside a house is a fledgling whose contact calls the parent can no longer hear. The acoustic link that the parent has been maintaining since before the chick hatched goes silent. From the parent's perspective, the chick has vanished. Not moved, vanished. The contact calls that were the homing signal are gone. Parent birds do not search inside structures. They cannot. They will search the surrounding area for a period that varies by species and individual. Some parents continue searching for hours. Some give up within 30 minutes of losing the contact call signal. And then they attend to whatever other fledglings may be present in the brood, or they begin the process of moving on. The fledgling inside the house is now a bird that needs to be hand-raised by a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. Not because it was injured, not because its parents were gone, because it was taken inside. Hand-raising a wild bird from the fledgling stage through independence takes 3 to 6 weeks of feedings every 30 to 45 minutes during daylight hours, requires species-appropriate diet that most people cannot source or prepare correctly, and produces birds with compromised foraging skills and abnormal behavioral relationships with humans that reduce their survival odds after release. A fledgling raised by its own parents produces a bird that is flight-capable, food-independent, properly socialized with its own species, and behaviorally normal for its environment. The parents can do in 4 weeks what a human cannot replicate in 4 months. Let them. There is one situation where intervention is genuinely necessary. A nestling, a baby bird with no feathers, or with pin feathers still in their sheaths, or with eyes not yet open, on the ground is not a fledgling. It has not left the nest by design. It has fallen or been pushed or the nest has failed. A nestling on the ground is cold, is not ready to be there, and will die without the nest. The myth that touching a baby bird means the parents will reject it is false. Birds do not reject their young based on human scent. Their olfactory systems are not designed for that discrimination. If you find a nestling on the ground and the nest is locatable and intact, you can pick up the nestling, with your hands, gloved or not. Warm it gently between your palms if it is cold, and place it back in the nest. Warming matters. A cold nestling returned to the nest may be pushed out by the parent in an attempt to remove a cold foreign object that seems wrong. Hold it in your cupped hands for 3 to 5 minutes before replacing it. The warmth is not your scent affecting anything. It is the nestling's temperature determining whether the parent recognizes it as alive and worth continuing to care for. If the nest has been destroyed or is unreachable, a substitute nest made from a small container, a berry basket, a margarine tub with holes punched for drainage, lined with the original nest material if you can collect it, or with dry grass and leaves, and placed in the nearest available location in the same tree or shrub, will often be accepted by the parents. Watch from inside. Give it an hour. The parents will find it. The bird on the ground in your yard right now is not asking you to save it. It is asking you to trust a system that has been saving it continuously since before it hatched. A system built in the precise pitch of its mother's voice, encoded in the password it learned inside the egg, running in the back and forth of contact calls that have been keeping parent and chick located relative to each other through every hour of every day since the morning it jumped from the nest. A system that works without you. A system that works better without you. Go inside. Give it 20 minutes. Then look out the window. The parents will be there. And that reunion, quick, unremarkable from the outside, a feeding and a call and a small wing flutter that you might miss if you blink, is one of the most successful outcomes in nature. A system completing itself exactly as it was designed to. Not despite your restraint. Because of it. Drop a comment. Have you ever found a baby bird and waited to see the parent return? What happened when you stayed back? I read every single one. Subscribe. New video every 2 to 3 days. See you in the next one.